you, Master Nanadia. So at this moment, we'd like to take some hymns from our almighty Pax Choir KNUST, the best choir in Ghana. So Pax Choir, kindly take us away.
Oh, okay.
Tolerance. And the person to give us this presentation is Monsignor Professor Stephen Ntim. He's a priest from the Kumasi Archdiocese. He's a dean of the national program for Catholic University, and he's in collaboration with a group in Germany. And so it's not wise to bring him here to give this presentation. And so, in a round of applause, we'd like to welcome Monsignor Professor Stephen Ntim.
So good morning to all of you. Right, as has already been explained, the topic is very clear. It's a conference on religious tolerance for Catholic youth. Over the years in this country, we have not had any major differences among Christians and Muslims and all that. But that does not mean that it's not an issue. So one of the things that is coming up with respect to what has been happening over the years, not too long ago, with the rulings and all that, like Shmota School, Wesley Girls School, and all that. So tolerance is becoming an issue. How do we make sure that other people that we see are different, we tolerate them? So these are some of the things. So basically, we're going to look at diversity and tolerance, especially the pluralistic society. Differences in terms of religion, in terms of language, and all that. How do we make sure that we accommodate our differences? So that is why we are here this morning, and as has been explained. It's a program of the Catholic Archdiocese of Kumasi. That's why we are here. Go. So the first question has to do, why this training workshop? Why have we come here to KNUST to meet Catholic students? Well, the answer is simple. It is being organized by Catholic Diocese of Kumasi, and then Kwame University of Science and Technology is within the jurisdiction of the See of Kumasi. Then obviously that's why we are here. So the first reason has to do with the fact that if you talk of tolerance, if you are talking of preconditions for law and order to maintain any country, whether democratic or that we accommodate our differences. Okay? And especially in this part of our world, in Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, where democracy and rule of law are very fragile, then the promotion of religious tolerance, non-discrimination, peace and harmony becomes a precondition for law and order. That one is incontrovertible. If that is the case, then what is the issue? The issue has to do with the fact that there are certain risks that needs to be avoided. Especially you can use religion as a shield of tolerance. And if you think that what I'm saying is just a speculation, it's not issues of religion. What's happening in many geopolitical areas in Africa? If you think that such as Nigeria, somebody saying it's just a speculation, that's happening. I guess most of it happening in geopolitical areas in Africa. Such as Nigeria. I've heard about them. So, and all the things that they are doing over there. So we have to make sure that, we live together in peace. Apart from that, there's always a correlation between one's religious values and one's respect for the values of tolerance. Okay? The more we tolerate democratic values, that implies that the more our religious values, we respect our religious values. Because religious values talk about equality, respect, honesty, and all that. So we can't make a dichotomy between democratic values and what we profess, regardless of our religious denomination. So, diversity, respect for others, then we're more likely to be predisposed to see difference not as challenges, but as opportunities to bring our differences to enhance national development. And religion, as a discipline, has dual potentiality. Religion can do two things, and the two are diametrically opposed. Religion can bring people together, which is good. The other polarity is that the same religion, if it's not used properly, handled properly, and translated, and at worst, bigotry. As we go through the lecture, as we go through the workshop, we see what has been happening over the years around the globe, around the world, and specifically in Africa. We go to order. Now, why is it that tolerance is critical, especially within our sub-region in West Africa? It is critical because the whole of Africa is very predominant in the West African sub-region. People migrate from one country to the other, and you know pretty well that our borders are very poor. From Togo, Benin, and all that, they speak exactly the same Ghanaian level. Same. There's no except a bit of dialect. So people migrate. And as they migrate, okay, they come to meet their friends. Start from now to make sure that whatever differences we think we accommodate them. We see all ourselves as friends, as brothers, and live together, then we're going to have problems that other African countries are having. And as people migrate, they carry with them their culture, they carry with them their values, they carry with them their religion. Okay? That's why there's nothing that we can do. And it's on record that since 2007, the rate of migration, both internal and international, has gone up much higher in sub-Saharan Africa. Forces us to look at tolerance. Now let us briefly look at some of the recent patterns of migration, especially from sub-Saharan Africa. Okay? Our migration is more intra-regional. Okay? And it's more a kind of a circulation type of migration. That's what I've explained earlier. So these are what is happening, and therefore we have no choice but to do something about immigration. Now, what is the implications of that? What are the basic implications? From the above, three religious outcomes have been noted. First has to do with individual determinants of religiosity. People come, they bring with them their religion, whether Muslim, Islamic, whether Hindu, name them. You can't tell them to stop their religion. It's not possible. You carry it with them. It's a fact of life. You have to tell it. Obviously, labor will come in, you get into work and all that. Okay. How does it apply to Kumasi? Why is it important that the Catholic Archdiocese of Kumasi is organizing this program? It is because Kumasi is a metropolitan city, where people like it. Okay? And it's mostly densely populated. Accra is coming up. I don't know whether it has already catch up. In terms of diversity and all that, I don't think Accra will come close to Kumasi, even though it is the national capital. Okay? Ethnic, tribal, and all that are found in Kumasi, from not just within Ghana. We have people in Kumasi from Kenya, people in Kumasi from Guinea, people in Kumasi from Benin. We can go on and on and on and on. Okay? So it is for this, and of course, over the years, we have had that advantage of living in peace with our brothers and sisters, whether within Ghana or from other West Africans that has come to Kumasi. Because Kumasi is a commercial city. Okay? It's not like Accra. Accra is more, if you like, it's not business, but it's more academic kind of thing. People go there, work in the parliament and all that. But when it comes to Kumasi, it's more business. Okay? So it's commercial. And as a result of that, people come here for commercial basis. And either they settle or they go and come. So that diversity is here in Kumasi. Okay? So it's within this that the diocese feel that's very important. So as far as the diocese, Nigeria, Kenya, Mali, name them. This is compelling to already consolidate in the country. Who are going to be future leaders. That's why the diocese has come up with that. So given this cultural background, the Catholic Archdiocese of Kumasi sees religious pluralism as a pastoral priority. So organizing this training for students of different tribal, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. Now, having explained why we are gathered here and why the diocese is organizing this, then the question comes, what is the overall goal? What is the purpose of this workshop? And he said, the fundamental objective. Sensitize all of you, Catholic students, to appreciate differences rather than see them as that needs to be marked. That is the overall goal. Alright, let us look at the focus of this training workshop. We are going to focus on three things, but they will all be combined in this presentation. We will look at religious and social tolerance from the perspective of theological concentration. Then we look at it from the perspective of our traditional and contemporary Ghanaian context. And then, finally, if you have the time, we look at the political context. Okay, so these are the three focuses that we're going to combine together in this presentation. Okay. So let's begin, first of all, to look at the theological concentration. Theological concentration. When I talk of theological, basically you know what I mean. Let's go back to the sources. Okay? What does Christian books, what does Scripture say about tolerance? What does our tradition say about tolerance? So we are going to look on this, we are going to look at historical arguments of tolerance, response to these arguments, and the demands of the gospel. In England. And the purpose of giving a sympathetic understanding of religion or religious cultures. See? And of course, the reasons are not too difficult. If you take England as a country, okay, is, I think, slavery and colonialism and all that. Therefore, historically, over there, ethnicity and all that. So it actually began from there in England. Okay. So the issue was that people must learn to accept one another with all their differences, especially at the international level, and especially these days that whether we like it or not, our world is becoming globalized, what is global village. Okay? So the world is becoming increasingly interdependent on each other. Of course, we also know from history, okay, the issue of the Nazi Germany. Now, how one person alone could influence the whole of Germans to kill thousands and thousands of Jews, so that I don't have to go back to that. The Holocaust. Okay? So these are some of the historical things. In Germany, itself, and Central Europe, for years, there were 30 years of war that reduced population by 1/3. And the cause of that war was ethnic. Okay? You go back to England. In the 1640s, there were religious quarrels between Christians and Protestants. And we're also involved, Catholics are also involved. Okay? But all these are issues that we cannot take for granted. Now, so, if this is how it starts, how do we respond? And the response will depend on what we mean by tolerance. Tolerance basically means putting up with people. Putting up with people means that you don't want to rock the boat. You don't have any issue with anybody. Then comes the question. If you are simply putting up with some people, then intrinsically, basically it means that you don't like it, but it's because you don't want any problem. In fact, that's what tolerance is. And the critical aspect of it. Putting up with somebody means here, not necessarily meaning that you like what the person is doing or you are happy with that, but it's just that you don't want to rock the boat, as the Irish would say. You don't want to rock the boat. Now, with this definition of tolerance, then we also have a problem.
if you are just tolerating certain things you don't like, but you just tolerate it, then is it something that is much in depth? Is it not artificial? Because psychologically, when it goes on like that, human as you are, you can only tolerate somebody or some people at a certain level. And then you become, anxiety increases. So you can't tolerate the person anymore. And then it backfires. That is why we have to go back and look at this man that we call Jesus, that we all follow. That's the theological aspect. Jesus, even when we had insulted him, spat upon him, crucified him, laid him naked, almost naked on the cross, Jesus didn't retort. What did Jesus say? Father, forgive them. Forgive them. They don't know what they are saying. Unless you go back to that. Unless you go to the fundamentals of our Christian religion, tells us to follow this man for Jesus. Why would he say, Father, forgive them? They don't know what they are. Not only praying the Father to forgive them, making excuses for us. They don't know what they are doing. That is the only condition that can make tolerance survive. So tolerance without a deep Christocentric theological approach, if we think that we can only do it on our own, we are making a mistake. Go back to that man that all of us are following. That man who could even tell you and I that pray for your enemies. Do good for those who hate you. It's like, that's the basis. That should be our response. Unless we go back to that Christocentric thing and follow this man called Jesus, a time will come, human as we are, we become fed up, and then it returns back. So, tolerance, when let's go back to that of Jesus, becomes a negative attitude. If you want to avoid the negativity, let us follow Jesus. Let us follow Jesus. So, that is what is it. That's what I mean by the theological basis. The theological basis means Christocentric. Let it be Christ-centered. Let it be this man called Jesus that we are following. Without him, nothing could be achieved out of tolerance. Okay. So, as I was saying, without following this man Jesus, it can produce paranoia. You see, we are human beings. We can only tolerate it. We can tolerate people just at a certain level. And history tells us that the Jews, in Europe, okay, there was a time that you didn't tolerate the Jews anymore. And then it led to, all the Holocaust and all that. Go back to our own history, Christian history. How Christians go. Okay? They were persecuted one after the other. They didn't tolerate the Christians. So, that's my point. Toleration, certain limits, they can't be anymore. And then comes the confrontation. No. That is what I mean by the gospel demands. Go back to this. Let us follow it. Okay. So, look at Jesus on the cross praying for the forgiveness. Tolerance and toleration must be for Christians. They need to bring everything in subjection to this man called Jesus. Okay. So that is the first theological aspect. We have looked at that. The question is, what about religious tolerance from our tradition, from our Christian culture? Okay? Some of you are too young, probably, religious, in a typical Ghanaian village, you can have 3 people adhering to different gods before Christianity came in. One is worshipping Tegari, another is worshipping what? Antonyama, another, and yet they were never at each other's throat. Never. They were never at each other's throat. So traditionally, we have no problem with religious tolerance. The modus operandi, the strategy that we use to evangelize and convert people to Christianity clearly indicated, of course, initially the intention was not that, but they didn't realize that. For example, let me give you one example of the parsonage, the Presbyterians. They literally take people out of their community, put them somewhere, they used to call them silents. And then once the person becomes converted, then begins looking down on all the other religions. So to an extent, we are part of the problem. And if you are part of the problem, we need to be part of the solution. But traditional religion, no. Traditional religion has been tolerant. I've mentioned the past. What about as Catholics? If not in Ghana, on the global level, we started the crusades against the Muslims. Somewhere in the 6th century. Of course, at the time, the Pope called Urban had no choice to do that because the Muslims were controlling the whole of the Holy Land. Okay? Holy Land. The Garden of Gethsemane, the place where Jesus was crucified, the tomb where Jesus was buried, they are all there. They are all there. The Muslims were going to control that at the beginning of the Crusades. So we fought against Muslims. Typical example of intolerance. So we also have good. So as far as our religion is concerned, then we don't have any problem. I mean, it's on record. For example, that in modern northern Ghana, when Islam came, Islam just was found accommodated down south here, in the forest belt. Okay? The same thing happened. No big issue. Okay? So there has always been a peaceful balance between the profane and the sacred as far as our indigenous religion is concerned. But one of the things that I help have to do with the whole question of kinship system, where up north we have the skin, and then down south we have the stools, and so our kings and the chieftain system has also helped a lot. That is what has helped. Then immediately after independence, also Kwame Nkrumah tried to bring all the religions together, the 3 major religions, Christianity, Islam. Okay? We have councils, religious bodies, and national peace councils, and all that. But what is the situation today? Things are changing. That's one of the reasons for this thing. for this encounter. Okay? There is a charismatic shift where religious differences will escalate. Many parts of it's spreading fast down south, into Burkina Faso, into Mali. And as I'm telling you now, places like Mali, Burkina, which used to be very, very peaceful. You know what is happening to Christians, we know what is happening to Catholic priests. Some are being murdered. Catholic priests are being murdered. Churches are being attacked. So things are changing. Things are changing. Then we have the threat of ISIS, all that. Okay? In Ghana, whether we like it or not, maybe some of you have forgotten. The yearly frequent disputes between the Ghana traditional Homowo, you remember that? The Homowo thing and about the issue about drumming and noise making. This Accra belongs to us. We are doing our Homowo, no drumming. No big deal. Some Christians say, no way. It's a right. So it's wrong. In a disguised form, in a very subtle form, it is there. And we need to confront that. We need to confront that. Okay? So the mode of Christian evangelization, all that, as I've said, have been part of all this. So if you take a closer look at religious restrictions around the world, okay? 50 countries, all of them talk about the same thing. 260 million Christians are persecuted. And the target is always for their religious beliefs. In the 2020 alone, there were 260 million, compared to 245 million in 2019. Okay? Last year, estimates on churches have risen from 500%, from 1,847 in 2019 to 9,488 in 2020. Okay? We have, it continues, Afghanistan, Somalia, Libya. In an Islamic society, Christianity exists in secret. Islam. If an Afghan leaves Islam, the family members are the first to be attacked. That's a typical example of intolerance. You can do that here in Ghana, in Somalia, which is also in Africa. Okay? Conversion to Christianity is regarded as a betrayal. Family members, clan leaders will harass, intimidate, and even kill converts. Okay? So all these things are there. All these things are there. Okay? Then we have the group called Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab, which is the youth wing. It's an Islamic group. Okay? And they continue to slaughter Christians on the spot, when they are discovered. Does it mean Christians should retort? No. There's no freedom of speech. No equal treatment of Christians. No recognition of church. And no churches are being built. Pakistan is afflicted by numerous radical Islamic groups. And they target churches.
Christians are regarded as second-class citizens. So we can go on and on and on and on.
In Sudan, the government has arrested, intimidated many Christian leaders.
And numerous churches have been demolished. Okay?
Do we have to retort? No. In Burkina Faso, which has been long known for its religious tolerance, Christians keep saying that they are fighting for survival. There are some Catholic priests in Burkina Faso, just up north of us.
Threat of Islamic jihadists. Central Africa, they say Cameroon, they say Boko Haram, which started in northern Nigeria, is gradually moving into northern part of Cameroon. Okay. So,
What do I mean?
giving you all these statistics, it means that the global picture does not look too good. Christians appear to be targeted all over. Even though Uganda, we are getting better.
To promote religious tolerance. What can we do? Dealing with differences has been a challenge. History is full of that. I've already explained the 6th century Islamic expansion, which led to the Pope and all that. So we have to tolerance all that. What should we do? The first we can do is take a message after this workshop. Okay?
The first has to do with talks and discussions.
And discuss, talk and discuss issues to inflame passions. No. But let's come to be aware of what is going on. And why talks and discussions are important is this. You see, if you read the preamble quote, since wars in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men constructed. Tolerance is one of the defenses of peace, and education is one way to build that defense.
That's why we are here.
At work, in society, across countries, and when it goes to the stream, it can kill. even between married couples, or within a family, or between individuals and groups in our midst. It's one of the effective means to develop peace-oriented values, such as respect, concern for others, tolerance. Okay? So teaching for tolerance and peace is based on dialogue, rather than just passing on information. Do this, be open-minded, ask questions that will foster understanding and make fellow students like you see how important tolerance is. Second, multi-channel learning. Multi-channel learning. Okay? Find different multi-ways of learning. Through individuals, through materials, through activities, through arrangements. That will mediate peace. Okay? So that you yourself become mediators of peace. Talk to family members. It's one of the multi-channels. Talk to people in your community. It's one of the multi-channels. Discuss social experiences. It's one of the multi-channels. Make special arrangements for groups for learning, like Pax Romana. One of the means of the multi-channels of learning to bring this issue across to our students. The next one has to do with what the other call galvanizing students into action. Galvanizing students into action. Okay? What do I mean by that? Not galvanize students to confront others, no. But what I mean is that teaching for tolerance and peace must not stop at the cognitive level alone, at the mental level alone. Okay? It must lead people into action on the basis of their peace orientation in your communities here, in your halls, and all that. It must have a critical reflection, which should propel the learner to critical action. Okay? So what it means is that it involves you as an individual person to make your contribution to harmonious, peaceful, social action. So ask yourself the question, what can I do with others to promote peace wherever that I am? What can I do? Differences of appearance, differences of religion, differences of values, differences in ability, to name but a few. The systems of moral and religious values. All of us depend on a large system of moral values. Yeah? We are born with our own values. It's nothing about that love that you young people know. Okay? Somebody smiles to you, you smile back. That one is cheap. Lady
whom you know is competing with you with your boyfriend, would you pray for that lady? Yes or no?
No.
You pray for that lady, yes? Then you. But majority of you, deep in your heart, you curse that person. Okay? So my point is that be convinced of your religious value. Name it. Yeah, even the person who doesn't like you, pray for him. That's what Jesus tells us. Don't hate back. If you hate back, then there's confrontation. There's confrontation. Okay? That's what I mean by systems of moral and religious value. That should guide us. Our religion should guide us. And if we are convinced of our own religious values, I am very convinced that we will succeed to promote tolerance and to continue this good tolerance between all the religions in this country, Christians, traditionalists, Muslims. We need to continue with that. That's what we have to do from here. So let me also add that it's not as easy as I have said. It is not. Simply because it's difficult to pray for someone who consistently offends you or disrespects your value. But when we are convinced of this man called Jesus, we can do that. So thank you very much.
Thumbs up. Thank you, everybody. Say thumbs up. I've got nothing. Thumbs up. Yes, I'm sure you have learned a lot from this presentation. I would like to take some questions. If any, so if you have a question, kindly raise up your hand. Continue religious tolerance in a pluralistic society. If you have a question, kindly raise up your hand. We may have a question. So he said we galvanize into action. What if that galvanization is what's the word to use? It will not be beneficial to us. I think our life will be on the line in that galvanization. I don't like it. What should we do if our life is on the line while galvanizing the youth into action?
Well, the question is, if your life is on the line, how do you galvanize yourself? If somebody is going to kill you, right? Is that not your question? Yeah. Well, this is where, even in moral philosophy, we say that you must defend yourself first. If somebody is coming to kill you, then you must have to defend yourself. But defending yourself doesn't necessarily mean that once you have defended yourself, you continue the hatred, you continue the bigotry. That is where we have to stop. Yes, defend yourself. If somebody is going to kill you, you don't stay there and let the person kill you. But having done that, you see, the danger is that you are not very careful. You are going to continue with the anger, with the bigotry, and all that. And that is where the danger is. Okay? Defend yourself, yes. But once you have defended yourself, as much as possible, try to make sure that you don't continue with the anger and bigotry, because psychologically it doesn't help you anyway. Okay? Okay.
Okay, my question is very simple. I want to find out, we are all Christians, and then at least those of us here, and we've been charged with a great commission, which is to preach the word and evangelize us, the Muslims, for 4 years and what to convert people to Islam. I want to know how we are to pursue evangelism in an ideal society where we are all tolerating each other. perfectly in an ideal situation where Christians perfectly tolerate Muslims, they all perfectly tolerate the traditionalism, all other religions. How do we win people to Christ as Christians in the ideal society of all of us being tolerant?
So if I get your question, you are saying that because we all tolerate each other, then how do we explain that one religion is better than the other? Is that all it? Because if we are all the same, then why do we do?
Yes. Exactly. It's a very good question. The point is this. Ideally, all religions cannot be the same. Ideally. But the question is, which is philosophical, the question is, what right have you to say that your religion is better than the other? Think about it, philosophically. Because anything we say about God is only hypothetical. Because we are human beings, can we really know who God is in the first place? We cannot really know who God is. So, if my Catholic faith tells me that God is love, I go by that and preach that God is love. So all those things that binds people together, that's what we preach. But the bottom line is that when human as we are, some religion will be better than the other. But the question still remains, on what basis do you tell me that your religion is better than mine? Are you getting my point? So it's not as simple as that. As a Catholic, I'm convinced that my Catholic religion is far better. Why? Because I follow this man called Jesus, which all the other Christians also follow. But I can tell you, apart from Catholic Church, okay, I can name every founder of all these churches. Methodist was founded by John Wesley. Okay? The Calvinists. Lutheran Church was founded by Luther, who founded Catholic Church. Not the Pope. Who founded the Catholic Church? Can anybody tell me who founded the Catholic Church? So that's my question. So on that basis, I would say, at least my church was not founded by any human being. Okay? But having preached that, I have no right to tell the other person
accepting the people as who they are is not enough, then what exactly are we supposed to do?
That's what let us follow what Jesus did. Let us follow what he said when others had insulted him and spat upon him. If you don't link it up with this man called Jesus and what he did when people started disregarding him, insulting him, and all that, if you don't link it up and you think that on your own, then we will fail. We will fail. I think I took my time to explain that.
That must always go back to the Christocentricity.
Way back to this Christ-centered thing. If Christ doesn't come in, and we think that you and me on our own, we will fail. Because humans as we are, a time will come when we are fed up. But if you are under the impulse of the Spirit of Jesus, you can go somewhere. My daughter, have I answered your question?
Okay, thank you. Please, my question is to stay on the tolerance. Because especially when we were not born again. We weren't like Christian.
This one was. It's okay, it's okay. Somewhere.
We weren't like Christian. Okay. So as the time you meet Christ and then your life changed, your family or everyone begin to think like you are then different from them, and then you are not trying to relate to what they are trying to do. For instance, me, I'm from a traditional home. Second is that I'm not trying to relate with what I was born into. So now if the presentation is saying that we should relate with them, does it mean that once I'm from that home and then that is it and I'm supposed to relate with them, I should join them with their being, or I shouldn't protect my values as a Christian?
You should protect your values as Christian. Tolerance does not mean that you should respect your own values. And I think that in the end, I mentioned that. The values that have shaped you, your Christian values, pick on that. The first thing that you have to do in tolerance is that you accept your own value first. Tolerance doesn't mean that you respect yourself or you develop yourself. No. You can only talk about tolerance once you put values on your own first. That I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic. I put premium on my Catholic faith. And precisely because I put premium on my Catholic faith, then on that I can go out and dialogue with others. Then it means that others can easily also convince you. But know what your values are. Make sure that the values that you were baptized into, that were handed into you from your Catholic faith, that is what you use. So without that, there can be no precondition. The moment that you disregard your own values. So tolerance doesn't mean that you should disregard your values. That you were born or you have been baptized, it doesn't mean that. But you can only do tolerance when first and foremost you have accepted your values, and based on these values, tells me, Jesus tells me, love one another as I have loved you. Not this mundane kind of love. Love, that means that Jesus even hanged himself, not hanged himself, was crucified on the cross for me. When God insulted him, I kept saying that. So when I'm convinced of that, then I can tolerate and discuss issues with others. But just as Christ never
went around changing blows, okay, with his enemies. My brother prayed for them. That should be my value that I should carry to go and talk about tolerance. Okay?
Continue.
Yes.
Please, I would like to ask a question based on what you just said. Is that as Christians, we should be tolerable just like Christ was, and every come of peace? And I would like to ask, must we always be tolerable? Let's take it, considering this religious war-torn countries. Let's take it from the view, I want to ask a little bit out of the context question. Yeah, let's take it from the view of those other religions. Since we Christians, yes, we look up to Christ as our hero of peace. Let's take it from their point of view. Must they tolerate these things that are going on? Let's say all the talks are failed, the mediations, arbitrations, all these things are failed to reconcile, them to those oppressing them. Would they need to continue looking on as they are being destroyed? Because definitely, one way or the other, they all came to this as a purpose. Yes, so must they continue to tolerate their oppressors' view while at their expense? That's what I would like to ask.
So if I'm hearing your question, where the question simply is there not a limit to tolerance? Is that not your question?
Yes, from the other religion's point of view, since we Christians, yes, you might think probably it's experiencing martyrdom or it's, I want to, at their point of view, the other religion's point of view.
Yeah. Obviously, there can't be a limit to tolerance so far as we are human beings. And I think I explained that. You reach a point when you say, no, I'm fed up. But then comes the question. When you are fed up, so you also give it back, what happens? Is it not fire? You are fed up. You give it up. Let me also hit back. Will there be peace? That is the question. Yes, there's a limit. So to answer your question, there is a limit to that. But the limit does not mean that you could not continue negotiating. As for negotiation, as for dialogue, I don't think there can be limits to that. All these statistics that I gave you, yes, the international body is still negotiating with Islamic militancy and all that. But if Christians say, no, enough is enough, we also have our arms, we hit back, then there's going to be war. Is that what we want? No. So yes, to answer your question, there's a limit. To dialogue. So it's a very thorny issue. I've explained that. It's very difficult. But dialogue must continue. Dialogue must continue.
Continue. It's a follow-up question to what you just said.
Yeah.
But then, if always dialogue, and nothing is being achieved, there is no continued dialogue. I would want to create a scenario for you. My grandma once told me that her sister, yes, she married, and the husband was always beating her. It's like they had several family meetings to discuss the issue, but then there wasn't any positive result. The mom was still beating her. And one time, she was advised that the mom tried, should try and take a kitchen stool in an attempt to hit him. And the very day she did attempt that, that's the day the beating ceased. So I want to ask, dialogues have failed. Can't you cause a shake-up that they come to their senses? That's how I want to ask. Thank you.
Shake up, fine. Chaos. Chaos. Everything, becomes fire. You see? Yes, there are times that we have to hit back. There are times that we have to say, look, enough is enough. But then, again, it should not end in continuing anger, in continuing, retribution and all that. So it shouldn't be continuous. Yes, at some point, put your feet down. I gave the example in our own Catholic Church of Evan, when Muslims wanted to take over the Holy Land. Okay? That was the result of the Crusades. And that was the end. Yes, so, but I don't think Evan did that with the intention of all the time continue bigotry with Muslims. Ever since, Catholics and Muslims have been very good friends. And most of the things that they copied from. Yeah, we were the castle. Those who were ahead. They picked some of these things from us. And we have been good friends. So my point is that yes, there are times we must hit back. But then it must continue with dialogue and not bigotry and hatred. Okay. I think that's my answer to that.
Question.
Please, my question is concerning the issue happening in our country about religious intolerance, especially what's happening in Ajimota.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask that since it was that used to settle the issue.
You're asking for my personal opinion, right?
Yes.
Because we are on air. You have to be careful with that I say. Yeah, but I will answer that. My area is in because I know. When it comes to school discipline, I have an objection when people begin to relate that to constitutional bill of rights. Because the moment you do that, then you put teachers and school at how do they deal with discipline? How do they ensure that in the school there will be peaceful environment for learning and teaching without distraction? How do we ensure that even here on campus, yes, liberty is there, but liberty does not mean that we can go around almost naked. It doesn't mean that. With the moment that you do that, okay, the autofista kind of thing, almost when it comes to issues like dress code, hairdos, and all that, we need to be a bit, to have, the English is a circumspection. We must be a bit careful in applying certain things. This thing that came up, it looks like we are moving towards what other countries have adopted. South Africa, for example. You can't discipline it just because you are teaching school. Discipline is where related to the Bill of Rights in their constitution. And it looks like that's where we are going. And for me, it becomes a bit difficult. Now, having said this, I'm not in any way implying that we should not tolerate religious difference. I'm not saying that. Okay? Religious differences, people come to school. They have their values. They have their religious values. They are Muslims. Yes. At least, for me, again, speaking personally, going a little bit further to ask the kitchen staff when they are doing their Ramadan to prepare something for them early enough. Does this cost much? Does this cost much? It doesn't. And yet they were in Catholic schools. Those days not like today. Okay? The priest, who was then, we used to call him the local manager, would come and teach catechism. I remember those days they would ask the Muslims to leave. We didn't impose Catholic catechism on them. You have to make sure you go to Mass every morning, every Sunday, and you get a number. Muslims. So for me, some of these things should not be a big deal. You shouldn't. Okay? But of course, as I'm saying, everything has pros and cons. Pros and cons. We Catholics also have our Lenten observance, don't we? 40 days of Lenten observance. Per our religion, it is voluntary. We don't force. Catholic religion doesn't force people to fast. Yes, we encourage that. But fasting in our Catholic religion. I mean, a child of 7, 8, we will not let such a person. The same Catholic code, our code of Canada, 60 plus and above. You are not supposed to fast. If you want to fast, fine, but you are not supposed to fast. So these are some of the new ones. At 8 years, they should fast, fine. And this is why you have to understand those headmasters. They see that these young people are too young to fast, especially coupled with the rigor of academic studies in the secondary schools and universities. So at that tender age, when these days you come to universities very, very, I'll tell you that you are too young. You see, in the secondary schools, now you can get 13, 12, they are there. And these young people have to fast, fine. This is a concern of school administration. Fasting, health-wise, you know that of all the organs, the brain took a phone and called some headmasters of our Catholic, some of our Catholic schools. Some of them are my students. I called them. And they said, well, Monsignor, for us, we tell the kitchen staff, go and prepare something for them. If they want to eat at 3 a.m., we have no business. It's not a big deal. But after Ramadan, when they start falling sick, we call their parents to come and take them away from the school. You see, so it's pros and cons. Are you getting my point, gentlemen? The one who has the person. And for those of you who went to a typical faith-based school, Catholic school, Methodist school, name that, you will know that the typical faith-based school. I went to Catholic school from primary up to. The is controlled by the bell and the siren. You get up in the morning at 5:30. You go to dining hall. It is the bell. Even after dining hall, when you have eaten around 1 a.m., the school, typical Catholic boys' school where I went, they will tell you, go and sleep. Siesta. And I remember my first year, one of the priests who was teaching us, Father, I don't feel like sleeping. He said, you go down, just lie down, look at the ceiling. What is the point? I can look back now, and I can see the wisdom in that. The wisdom in that. Just go relax. Let the brain cool down after 8 o'clock till about 2 o'clock classroom work. You have eaten, just go and lie down. So that is how faith-based schools are scheduled. For headmasters to do that. Having said that, okay, I don't think any headmaster or headmistress also had any bad intention of discriminating against certain groups of people. At times the media is also involved. Okay, they get too sensational. I see people are deliberately trampling on other people's rights. Who told you that you're trampling on people's rights? Don't forget that you're information. You're being informed. Therefore, they have to go through certain rules. Is that trample on their rights? I have serious doubt about that. Okay? But my point is that you should go. Just do what happens so that they don't see that as infringement of their rights. But having said that, I still also believe that students are too young these days to fast. Okay?
Yes, please. Last question. Is there any other question? Okay. Last two questions.
This one, I think he has already asked a question, so I'll allow that.
Okay. Thank you. Please, my question is, I want to find out, tolerance, is it one-sided? Is it that one person is supposed to tolerate the other, or both parties to tolerate each other? Because there are instances where, especially our denominations, so denominations think like when you are a Catholic, then you don't your faith, or you can't pray, or you get. I don't know, I'm too passionate about this. Sometimes, because there was a day I was with some friends, and then someone came, I think from First Lab. So it was like, please, can we go to church? We said, oh, we just close from church. What church? We said Catholic. Oh, we just wasn't Catholic. The way she did and then, like, I became angry. I never acted, and then I did it. And back at the senior high, I went to like a boys' school, which was also Catholic based. When you go out and you're walking, then Muslims are thinking like we are being biased for not admitting them. So you'll be walking and they're insulting you. Are they tolerating us? And why must we also tolerate them? Thank you.
Okay. Ideally, tolerance ideally should be both ways, ideal. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that way. If two people will tolerate each other, then we don't have even to waste our time to talk about tolerance, because people are tolerating each other. But reality is what we are saying. Some people think that they should not tolerate others. But as I keep saying, if they are thinking that, and you say then I must also hate back, then we are engaged. So you said that doesn't see it. You should also not say, I'm also not going to see it. If you don't want to see it, then we end up in darkness. Yeah, that is it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
So let's take the last two questions at one, like address. Yeah.
So, Monsignor, please, with regards to the typically faith-based schools,
Yeah.
for instance, let's say you are aware that Wesley Girls is a typical Methodist school,
Yeah.
but then you are a Muslim.
Yeah.
Do you think it is still prudent to still attend the school, knowing that you know where you didn't get to practice your faith? Yes, please. Do you think you should still go because they have their rules and regulations, but then you decided to still go? Now, when you go and then you are not allowed to, is it their fault?
Take the second question. The last question for now.
So I hope I'll remember. Why don't you let me quickly, before I forget that one, let me quickly answer that. In the Education Act of 1961, go and read. Absorbed all the faith-based schools into the public system. Why did he do that? Because these were the best schools, and still they are the best schools. In terms of academic excellence, in terms of discipline, and Nkrumah absorbed all our schools into the public system. What does it mean? What it means is that you use the public purse to pay teachers, to pay salaries, to buy books, etc., etc. The only thing that we have is management. The head is always appointed by the missions, whether Catholic, Anglican, that's what. So, yes, it is a Methodist school, but so far as you are using public purse to pay teachers, it's a Muslim, so you can go there. And that's what we are picking up now. Are you getting it? That is the history behind it. You see, the other side is this. If the church, the Christian mission says, look, government, is law, we are taking back our schools. In fact, there was something in the pipeline like that, to take back all our schools. But the point is, one, is the government going to allow us? Two, even if the government says, fine, you can take back your school. What is going to happen is this. Because our schools happen to be the best, discipline-wise, because you don't get subvention from government, it's going to be private, the fees are going to shoot up. Now, okay, these days, because of NANAD, we have free secondary schools. But assuming that you go into the private system, will parents be able to pay the high fees? So what will happen is that if you are not careful, we go into the same situation as we have with our public basic schools. The public basic schools are not the best. People who have money go a step further, send their kids to private basic schools, pass very well to enter the Holy Child, the St. Augustine's, the way they here. Are you with me? Come to KNUST and enter into engineering and medicine and all that. If you take back our schools, that's what is going to happen. The same politicians who have the money, they will send their children there. What about the uneducated man living in a village called Trevidi? Are you getting my point? So it's a dicey issue. It's very dicey. If you say fine, we take back our schools. The purpose for which we established the schools was not for the rich people. It was for everybody anyway, whether rich or poor. And the history of education in this country teaches us that it was the Christian missions that were the first to make their schools available to everybody, irrespective of your background, whether rich or poor. Go back when the English people came with the castle schools. The castle schools were only for the mulattoes and the mulatras, the concubines, and all the issues, the kids that came out with their concubinage. Those fair colored, you know what I mean? They were the ones who were being admitted in the castle schools. Ordinary people from the village, no way. Who are you to come to the castle schools? It was when we came in and we said, regardless of where you come from, you can attend our schools. So that is the reason. If you're not very careful and because of what is happening, say, come on, we want our school. It's going to backfire. The poor people cannot pay. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay.
All the countries that you mentioned, the Islamic countries, it is that they are the ones not tolerating Christians. So does it mean that the Muslims are the problem, not the Muslims?
I haven't said that. But by implication, my daughter, did you do logic? Yeah, globally, we are not the problem. In fact, we are being even targeted. Over and over, and I give you examples of Catholic priests being murdered in Burkina Faso. They're all target. So we are not the problem. But I'm saying, yes, we are the victims. But should we fight back? No. Our young people to go and fight back. We won't do that. Are you with me? Yeah. So it's by implication.
Back to, I'm sure you have all been well informed and well, right? Yes, you present. Yes, so we'd like to thank you all for your questions and thank you, Monsignor, for your wonderful answers. We'd like to take administration by participant KNUST as the food is being shared to us in our seat.